Welcome to another Triathlon podcast, the podcast that brings the electrifying world of triathlons right into your headphones. Journey into captivating conversations, share the excitement of race recaps, enjoy the humor only a triathlete would understand, and join us as we debunk myths and bring you the bare, thrilling truths of the triathlon world. So feel your heart pound, breathe in anticipation, and get ready to dive into the world of triathlon. This is another Triathlon podcast. Enjoy the ride.
We are back with another Triathlon podcast brought to you by Mana Endurance. We're happy to be back with you after our little break over the holidays. I know we all enjoyed a bit of downtime, bit of training, and had some fun over the season. I'm here as always with Josh and Fede. And we've got an interview coming up with Matt Wilpers from Peloton. So definitely stay tuned. We're going to chat with him, get some insights into his training, how he got into triathlon, how he got into Peloton, and quite the interesting journey it was. But just wanted to pop in, say hi to Josh and Fede. How are you guys doing? Josh, how are you?
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Kind of crazy that we're all looking at our 2024 race calendar and in the full, for me, I'm in the full thick of it. I've got Oceanside coming up with a bunch of other Mana teammates on April 6th. So I'm in my build at this point. Good couple of weeks of training over the holidays and got on my first couple of trainer rides, not my Peloton. Tried the whole trainer setup and got dialed in there. I did get my first trainer flat, so I got to figure that out.
Fun.
But I got on Zwift and realized I had half power, so I was able to connect one of the two pedals, apparently. I was moving slowly through the world of Zwift. But I got on. I got my training done. I've lost a little bit of pool time with some of the weather and things that we've gotten. So I've been using some of my my Zen 8 training and doing some rowing and some other stuff. But the bike and the run have been great and still dialed back. So I've been working in lower zones, building more of that aerobic base, and really excited to start getting back into some higher level training that's more race specific.
That's great to hear you've taken all that feedback and information you got from that testing session and definitely applying it to your training now. It's so good to have that information just exactly for that. See where your weaknesses are, what you need to work on. It'll definitely make for an epic 2024 season.
It's a lot of right now, that's for sure. Running at these paces and biking at these paces and seeing how low my heart rate is. I mean, like, man, I know how hard I got to go at Oceanside is.
Well,
I have a lot of faith in it.
Absolutely. It'll for sure pay off. How about you, Fede? How are you doing these days?
Good. Happy New Year, guys. And it's good to hear that Josh is all up in the Norwegian method now. He's going scientific, which is great to hear. The training's been good on my side. I have a first race of the season in 2 weeks. So right now doing a lot of race pace and testing new gear. I got a new pair of the new Nike Alpha Flies, which those are great shoes, non-sponsored, so don't think this is biased. But yeah, great shoes. I did a couple of race-based bricks. Legs are feeling good. Power on the bike is not entirely there yet because first race of the season and we were not pushing the upper threshold. We were focusing more on the VO2 max and the endurance type of work, a bit more polarized on this start of the year, which of course that means that the threshold takes a hit, because that's how physiology works. But yeah, excited, happy, and looking forward to starting a new season and new challenges and all of that. What about you, Jenna? What's on the schedule? I know you are flying down under this year.
Yes, definitely getting into it. All eyes towards the World Championships down in Australia in August. But I'm just kind of figuring out my race season right now. I'm a little later on it than I usually do. So trying to actually plan in advance and not jump into a bunch of stuff last minute. But it's going to be a lot more run racing, a lot of duathlons, just all that high intensity work. But you wouldn't know it from my training right now. It's a lot of run volume at, again, that same aerobic foundation pace in there. Bringing up some run volumes of a runner. I think I did like over 50 miles last week. And fun part of having like being such an aerobic machine and having that foundation is I can jump up into some of those volumes and be fine. It's the intensity that beats me up. So I'm in my happy place right now. We took a step back from some of the VO2 and high intensity to add some volume before we go back into the high intensity work, which is definitely what I need to work on to run a lot faster than I've ever run before. But it should be good. Fun to mix it up, but I'm enjoying the long aerobic stuff at the moment.
We're on the same page there.
Absolutely. Well, we're definitely going to have lots more fun stuff coming for everyone this year. I'm going to be putting up some more posts for questions from the audience that the coaches and Josh here can answer. But to start off the year, to kick it off, we are going to have an interview with Matt Wilpers from Peloton here. He has, like I mentioned, a really fun story. So stay tuned. We're going to pop that in here, and we will be back next week with our usual format, and looking forward to recapping some races, having some fun, and getting into our What the F and social media posts of the week. Until then, take a listen to this interview.
Everyone, welcome to the another triathlon podcast. We are with our special guest, Matt Wilpers. I think I can somewhat handle this intro. I've known the man a little bit now since starting my own Peloton journey a few years ago, and we've got this cross-country superstar from Georgia, made his way to New York via finance and accounting, and on his way into the fitness industry, and then on to Peloton and stardom. And now the man's producing his own content and helping out other products, and then off to amazing ski adventures and traveling the world. I don't know what else he can do, but we'll find out today. It's awesome to have you, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be on the other side of things. Usually, I see you in the on the bikes in front of me, so this is fun. I'm excited for this conversation. I was kind of hoping for a conversation like this during class, but unfortunately, we got to keep the workout going.
So. You've had a couple of instances with me where we've had some chats during class, which is kind of cool. So I appreciate it, and it's been an awesome journey for me to take your classes. I think once I found you on the so. Nice to have you.
It's an awesome journey to watch you, to be honest. And like I get check-ins with. I feel like when people come to my classes, it's like athlete check-in, and I get to see how my athletes are doing, see what's working, and it's been fun following you for a while. And you're also very successful in what you're doing, so it's good stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm actually joined by two very successful triathletes with Jenna and Fede here, who are both been World Championship qualifiers and elite athletes, and now coaches, and I've learned a lot from them. So you'll like this podcast as well. We're big geeks into cycling, triathlon, nutrition, training, doing everything the way that Matt Wilpers loves to do it. So I thought it was going to be a great to have you on, and I'm glad.
Yeah, great.
Thanks for having me.
I've definitely heard you're into some of the power zone training and dialing it in, which we are, like you mentioned, endurance geeks. So as coaches, we spend a lot of time working with power zones. So it'll be interesting to get a little bit more of your perspective and how you bring that to a wider audience of maybe people who aren't inherently cyclists or aren't used to using some of those power zones. But we'll definitely jump into that as we go. How about we start off with kind of where did this journey all start for you? You had a bit of a different journey to sports and becoming a coach than most people did.
Yeah, no, it all, I guess I was raised in Georgia. I started off playing everything from soccer I actually started with baseball, soccer, tennis, even swimming. Eventually, dialed it down to, in high school, running and soccer. And then got a little bit burned out with soccer. I was coming from a big soccer family, and then decided to focus on running in college. And after college, I fell into coaching because of I got injured. I got qualified for Boston after my second marathon out of college. My first marathon was a complete train wreck. And then found my way into triathlon eventually because of that coaching job I got when I got injured. while I was racing or training for Boston. And my first coaching job was to start up all-female triathlon team called Team Lipstick here in New York City. And it was a joy to work with them. And so I started working with them. I kind of like lived vicariously through them while I was healing up. And that's when I really sort of fell in love with triathlon and started doing triathlons during that time, because I was like, well, if I'm coaching this, I better understand what the heck I'm doing. And, that's how sort of fell into triathlon. And sorry, what was the rest of the question there?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's funny. That's how I fell into triathlon too, training for marathons, got injured and ended up doing triathlon. But the rest of the question was just kind of, how did you go from that to getting into finance? And then it sounds like medical school to eventually finding Peloton.
Oh, yeah.
What did it look like?
Yeah. So you moved to New York City and was working in the public accounting space and, doing athletics on the side. And then I got that injury and started coaching and fell in love with coaching. And by the time I got, healed up again, I was like, well, I really like this coaching stuff. So I kept on coaching, but, got back to racing and stuff. And, spent about 3.5 years in public accounting, went over to, I came to New York City thinking I was going to go into finance, become some hotshot trader, investment banker or whatever. And went over to the banking side and realized that wasn't the right fit either. And, I constantly have this perspective of like, life is short and I don't want to waste time. We spend so much of our time at work. And it's like, why do I want to spend so much time doing something I'm not passionate about? And so I ripped that Band-Aid off and left and went full time with coaching and started doing a lot of volunteering around. I took that time. I raced my first Ironman during that time when I left my corporate job, because I figured that was the only time in my life I was going to have time to train for it. And I went and worked at PT offices. I went and worked at hospitals all over the place. I tried a million different things. I even took flight lessons in Brooklyn because I have a family full of pilots. And, I discovered that I was a little too nervous of a flyer for that. And, at the end of the day, I realized I really love coaching. I really love helping people, and I wanted to make a career out of it. And there's another guy. I'm not sure you guys know Jordan Metzel. He's a sports med doc, and I love what he was doing with bringing medicine closer to fitness. And from spending so much time in the performance training side of things, and having to work in the group fitness side of things, I realized I was like, well, we could really make group fitness a lot more sophisticated and still make it accessible. And that's where I sort of found my niche of like what I wanted to do. I wanted to make group fitness and scalable fitness more informative, more powerful, and bringing performance training into that space. And so eventually, I went from working in the corporate public accounting to the banking side. I went into work at fitness startups. Decided that the coaching thing wasn't coming from a very how you should say it's like traditional approach. Coaching is not like that end all be all thing. It's not the thing that when you're in your 20s, you're like, okay, that's what I want to do the rest of my life. You want something traditional. So I thought I was like, all right, well, let's go to med school. And because then I'll be able to work, like I'll be able to do like kind of what Jordan Metzel was doing and try to bring medicine closer to fitness. And then, so I went to NYU, did my post-bac, which was brutal, while doing group fitness to continue paying the bills. And then the fitness world, and especially in New York City, just took off. I was getting crazy. I was working with celebrities with all kinds of things, from coaching running on for films to, you name it. I was working with some of their kids with high school training. And I was like, there's a lot here. And then all of a sudden the opportunities just kept on getting bigger and bigger. And I worked out on a startup of my own. And about that time, Peloton came around, and we had just gotten investor attention into one of the projects I was working on. And so I pushed off med school by a year to see where that was gonna shake out. and I got an offer I couldn't refuse, and decided that, at the end of the day, what do I want to do with my life, and what's my mission? My mission is to make an impact on public health, to help people. And and my talent is motivating people to exercise and to train and to helping them navigate that. And so if I can do that and make it an impact on public health using fitness, I think that's the best use of my time spent here in this world. And that's why I'm here.
Good decision. So that's a good lead in to another question. How have you changed as an instructor? It seems like obviously now into the virtual world and into the Peloton world, that's changed how everything that you normally operate is face-to-face situation. How has that changed over the years?
Oh man, I mean, everything's changed, right? It's when I started at Peloton, all of our classes were live. And then, we'd only do some of what's called coach to camera. And they used to be shot like in like literally like you're walking in to shoot a movie. And then they realized, well, that, the cost structure behind that is ridiculous. So we started doing it more in our actual studios that we have versus like going somewhere else to film these things. And it became more the run of the mill by part of the business. And then COVID hit, and it really forced us to dial down on shooting without doing live classes. And I think it's great because, this part of this is like, you're able to really talk to the person through the camera versus having to entertain a class and talk to the person through the camera. You can really focus on that person at home. So it really gave us a chance to dial in and figure that out. So that's changed a lot at Peloton. A lot of things have changed at Peloton. It was built off of basically a spin platform. And then they hired me, and I come from the, training people on CompuTrainers and this and that. And they're like, who is this guy? And I was like, I didn't come from like a dance background like everyone else I work with. So I'll never forget my first class. They're like, Matt, our fear with you is that you're going to scare the crap out of everybody, and you're going to have no one riding your classes. And they didn't let me wear spandex, and they made me wear a hat. They forced me to wear a hat, and I was like, why? They're like, we have to like make you look approachable. And I'm like, I'm like, here's this guy with a shaved head riding in a kit, and they're like, you're terrifying. So I'm like, all right. So my first class is me wearing a hat in like, gym shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm riding the bike. And I wouldn't let them adjust my bike. So my bike is in my outdoor riding stance. So you could barely see the top of my head.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's all. But now, how have I changed as a coach? Well, some things are the same. Some things are a lot different. The things that are the same is that, they finally realized that I didn't scare everyone away. And they allow me to ride in spandex shorts. I can now ride in spandex shorts. That's as far as I've gotten with that. The core of how I coach is very much the same. I learned from coaching teams. I coached a variety of different triathlon teams, running teams, cycling teams, at 5 o'clock in the morning in Central Park. And the same formula that worked for me then still works for me now, or seems to work for me now. And that is, every session needs to be effective. You need to have an effective training session that has an objective to it that's meant to move the needle. And then you need to be able to teach your people something, your class something, or like inform them or teach them something about what they're doing and why they're doing it, so that they get invested more on another level than just simply do it because the coach says to do it. I want them to walk away, or like when they walk into a session, know why we're here, what we're doing, why we're doing it, learn something about that, so that I don't have to sit there and like force them through it. They want to be there. That is way more powerful than sitting there and kicking your athlete in the behind to get them to do it, just because they should do it. And then last thing is have fun. At the end of the day, people are showing up. They want to be there. They want to do this. It might not be the easiest thing in the world for them. I still respect that and appreciate that. And it's people's time. So I want to have a little fun. And the music side of that's fun. And I try to believe it'd be a little bit more fun. And that leads me to what's changed about me as a coach. And that is, when I started coaching, I think you guys might be able to relate to this, but there's a lot of coaches out there that are curmudgeons, right?
Yep.
Coaches, especially triathlon coaches, they have this like curmudgeon thing about them. They're like, I do things my way or the highway, whatever. And when I started coaching, it's easy to get frustrated and be a curmudgeon of a coach. And I've had to force myself to relax. And there's the owner of Team Lipstick. Her name is Laura Kozik, and she also taught group fitness. And she's like, Matt, we've got to crack your shell. We've got to crack your shell. Like, you've got to learn how to relax and have a little fun and show some personality. And so I constantly think about every year making progress and cracking my shell a little bit and being a little bit more personable, being a little less like crazy about things and trying to be a little bit more relatable.
Fair enough. Definitely sounds like when you go into these classes, you're actually teaching people and empowering them to take their own fitness journey into their own hands as well. And that connection, that understanding will definitely drive them to do more within the sport, which I know that's what motivates all of us, just seeing what you're capable of, what your body can actually do, which you never expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, it's like, there's that part of it. And then there's the part of it, like, social media. Like, I don't know. I still have a hard time handling social media, but I've made progress there. And I think there's a lot of coaches out there that just despise social media. But if you flip it on its head and you say, this is a chance to educate, this is a chance to motivate and inspire, you can look at it through a different lens and not only help other people, but help yourself. And help yourself by not only informing and inspiring, but also marketing.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I coach other coaches on social media, and what I tell them is, you could be the perfect person to help this person reach their goals. Maybe they've been struggling, maybe they haven't found the right answer, but if they don't know you exist, then you can't help them. So it's definitely an opportunity to make a difference in more people's lives, which is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And, I think another couple ways I've changed too, I've evolved it, is that I think as athlete and a coach, we're taught to push away emotion. Like, I constantly think about when you're in a triathlon, right? You're going through, you can feel these massive highs and you can feel these massive lows, and it's your job to keep it in reality and like go even, so like bring it back to even. And in the Peloton world, that looks very boring. Like, if I'm on stage and all you see is me just like, just being steady and not doing it, it's incredibly boring. So one thing I've had to evolve for is to really listen to bring those emotions back in and create arcs to workouts and arcs to classes. And one of the instructors, Robin, once said something super powerful to me that helps me to this day. She goes, Matt, if someone watched your class without sound, would they find it entertaining? And she's like, and that's the kind of thing that you need to think about that's going to draw even better engagement from the person at home. And so one thing I'm constantly thinking about is like using the emotions that I'm feeling, because that's probably what the person at home is feeling, feeding into that a little bit and recognizing it and using it to bring the person in.
Now you got to do that for 120 minutes.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Tell me about it. So there's that part of it. And then the other part of it is another thing you'll learn. I had to learn coming out of college was that, you can be used to being surrounded by people that are so motivated to do Ironmans and half Ironmans and all these big things. But there's a lot of people out there that are just struggling to get moving. And you have to find a way. It's not their problem. It's your problem as a coach to meet them where they are and find ways of like breaking yourself down and breaking down your message in a way that connects with them. And that's a constant learning thing for me. And, some fun things I'll never forget when I started at Peloton, they're like, Matt, you're going to teach this class called intervals and arms, and you're going to have arms on the bike. You're going to teach arms on the bike. And I'm like, that's against my religion. I'm sorry, that won't be happening. Like,
not one of the Vilamati rules.
What's that?
Not one of the Vilamati rules.
Yeah. I was like, if triathlon coaches saw me up here teaching bis and tries on a bike, I'd probably lose my coaching license. And so anyway, I had a big fight with my boss, and of course I lost. And so, but then I got up there and did this, and I was like, you know what? If this is the only thing that this person's going to do today, this is good. This is great. And like, furthermore, let's make it fun. Like, let's actually like get into it. So things like intervals and arms rides, things like live DJ rides, having some fun on Halloween and dressing up as my fellow instructors, doing theme rides and artist rides. These are things I would have never considered when I started at Peloton. And now I do them because, number one, it's way outside my comfort zone. And number two, it's like I'm learning to connect with more people and trying to, if I can, again, motivate them, educate them, provide them effective workout and build them up. Like, that's what I'm here to do. So it's on me to connect and do a better job. So that's another way I've evolved. Hopefully it's helpful.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I kind of saw when I was reading a bit more about you is you almost introduced more of that zone training to Peloton. And that's something as triathletes in our audience would be a lot more familiar with. Yeah. What did that look like? And what was kind of the response when you started to push that type of training a little bit different than the traditional style they had been doing in spin classes, say?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I started, there used to be this class called metrics. And I was like, oh, what is, what is this? What's a metrics class versus a like a theme ride or whatever? And no one can ever give me a good answer about that. And the other thing is, like, I knew from teaching classes on CompuTrainers, I'm like, we have people riding bikes. They're riding the same bike. And so therefore there's this opportunity, and they're riding with power meters. No one's coaching to power meters. In my experience, the power meter is one of the most expensive parts of the bike. That seems like a massive miss to me. So anyways, I was just like, well, I understood how training with power works. You have to have an assessment of one's FTP, and then you can, create your zones around that. I'm like, this could be fantastic. Let's do this. Couldn't get, the only way I could get buy-in was I went to my then big boss, the chief content officer at that time, and I said, here's what I want to do. And even during my interview, I took Hunter Allen's book and I put it on the desk and I said, this is what I want to do here. I think this is going to crush it, because I don't think that, no one's doing this, and this is where things have moved for cycling in a long time. And like the power meter has revolutionized cycling. So this is what we need to be doing. So anyways, I start basically teaching these types of classes, like coaching a little bit towards power in these metrics classes. And then I took my boss and I had him do a 20-minute just ride class. And I said, just give it everything you got. And then I sent him back, I calculated his FTP and his zones, and I sent him back. I go, for the next like 4 weeks, I just want you to ride my rides and follow my instruction. And I want you to hit these zones. And then he did it, and he came back, and I said, now do this ride again. Give me everything you got. And he improved. He was like, and I was like, and your quantified improvement was this. And he's just like, this is brilliant. We're doing this 1,000%. And that's how we got started. And it's been an uphill battle, because again, this whole platform started off as like more of a spin and dance type thing. But the cool thing is that, we've eventually built community around the Power Zone training, and, classes, results are best achieved when you take a programmatic structure. Like, you're not going to achieve a lot in one workout, right? So when we take these workouts and you create programs out of them, you see tremendous improvements. And so there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of me going into back in the day, going into these Facebook groups and saying, people used to never look at their data. They used to never look at their analytics. And like, how'd I do? And I take a screenshot of their graphs, and I'm like, well, here's what you did, and here's what should have happened. And I used the paint on whatever feature on your computer to do that. And then eventually what ends up happening is the whole community started teaching each other. And it took, and then all of a sudden it just took off. And because then, people saw the rhyme and the reason behind what we're doing and how it worked. And then we start building programs, and it just keeps building and building and building. Because I think that at the end of the day, I think we should be democratizing performance training and making it accessible to more people and more scalable. And that's really the goal. And so once people, again, learn about these things, then they're like, oh, okay, well then now I get it. And I love when a lot of people are like, I can now talk to my husband or my wife who's way more serious about cycling than I am. I can tell them my FTP, and I'm like, that's so cool.
That's awesome, Matt. I mean, now you're speaking my language, and it's very refreshing to see that not just a serious A-type personality triathlete is all about numbers, and that FTP and zone training is functional to everybody, and that everybody can benefit from it. It's not just reserved for those of us who want to qualify for a world championship event or something like that. I just wanted to ask you, how do you take away the part of the seriousness and the focusing on a specific number and make it more fun for people to get more familiar with zone training? Like, because a lot of triathletes get fixed on a number and they're chasing numbers, but like you mentioned, it's about having fun. And I'm like an advocate of having fun while pursuing specific zones. How do you merge both of those, like the specific zones and the having fun part, to, I mean, for people not to be more intimidated with that type of training?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so with every class, like let's take a ride that, Josh is probably at, like a 60-minute power zone endurance ride. Number one, there's music, and people connect with music. Like I try to include like in my classes, in power zone classes, it's not one specific music genre unless the class title says it is. Otherwise, I try to include a wide variety of different music, a wide variety of different genres, so that people can connect with music. And it'll, one of the genres is going to connect with probably someone at some point. Maybe you might not like all of it, but you'll like some of it. That's kind of the goal. So there's music. Then there's like coaching along the way of like what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then there is, a little bit of storytelling about like, how does this connect to real life? Then there's shout outs in community about like, okay, well, we have people that are riding their 3,000th ride, 1,000th ride. There's birthdays. And then another thing that I like to do is that with one of our riders early on, I was like having a really hard time. Like I was having a hard time with music. And again, like I came from the world of performance training. I'm not a DJ. And one of the number one critics you'll receive as a Peloton instructor, and you'll quickly realize you'll never satisfy people, is music. Like, I don't like your music, blah, blah, blah. Everyone likes to gripe about music. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make this one ride every week that I love. I want everyone to have a long ride every week if possible. I want to make an all request ride. So like, you guys send in the artists and songs. Lost my earbud here. Y'all send in your requests, your artists and songs that you want, and I'll do my best to program it so that, if you don't like it, we'll do what you want. And, but then I quickly realized, I was like, I know why I have a job. That's good. So some of these requests, I was like, yeah, right. Okay. Anyways, but no, but but at the same time, it was super cool because I would actually learn a lot about music that way. I learned a lot about what people like, what people not like, learn about new artists. And then Chris took it a step further, and he would say, tell me about something like he asked him a question. He's like, your request, if you're having a milestone, but also like, what's going on in your life? Are you training for something? What are you excited about? Like something. And then like all of a sudden you can start to hear about what people are going through and sharing that with the community. And that adds another layer to it of being like, oh, okay, well, gosh, they're training through, okay, this person is dealing with chemo right now and they're using this class to get through chemo. I'm using this class to train for my next Ironman, or I'm training for this class as cross training for running. And it just adds this whole other layer to it. And then, from a coaching standpoint, another way you can add another layer of complexity or fun to it is you have intervals at intensities, right? Well, of course we can dial it further and we can say, well, if we're going to be at an endurance class, let's do some intervals at low cadences, high cadences. Let's do some intervals where we have some out of the saddle work. So you practice pedaling out of the saddle. I can coach you to do better there. And then let's have some intervals where, we focus on our breathing or our posture, like things like this along the way. So there's many different, I look at it as like an onion, and at the surface level, you have your basic roadmap, but you can dive really deep and to provide many different layers of complexity to make it more engaging, more fun, more entertaining.
A song request this Saturday.
What's the song? Let me see.
I threw in a Tupac song. So.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
Okay, now putting you on the spot a little bit, has there ever been a song request that you're like, no, I just cannot do this? No.
Every week. every week. Well, obviously we do have like music rights and blah, blah, blah that we have to work around. But then there's also songs and like artists that, number one, I always try to keep my classes clean, because I think that I want people to, if kids are in the room, I want training. I think training should be for everybody. And I view myself as like kind of like the radio. Like the radio is going to have a censored version. And so I always try, if there's not a clean version, you're likely not going to hear it.
Right.
So there's that. And then the other thing is, it's just like the music has got to match the energy of what I'm asking for in the workout. So if it doesn't match the energy, at least the energy, let alone sometimes if we're doing cadence intervals, like we're going to say, we're going to hold zone 3 and I want you to be at a high cadence. Well, then I'll try to give you a song with the BPM that is relatively in the place I want you to be. But if it's just like, if I just want you to be at your natural cadence, well, if it's going to be at your natural cadence, I want a song that's going to have energy similar to the zone that we're in.
Right.
I don't want to put like a Debbie Downer in a zone 5, like that's not cool.
All by myself while doing sprints.
Yeah, exactly. That, it's just not going to do it. So, anyways, it's honestly every week I look at it like a puzzle you're trying to put together. And you start from the beginning, you work to the end. And in the coaching world, in the Peloton world, you have fun first classes, fitness first classes. In a fun first class, music comes first, workout comes second. In a fitness first class, like a Power Zen ride, you create structure first, and then you bring music in second. And usually I work from the beginning to the end, and I do everything in Excel. And that way I can really make sure that everything that the beat drops, the transitions are all dialed in for everybody.
Nice.
It's funny. I used to have this one coach that did group classes, and he would always kick on a slow song for the last interval, and he called it mental toughness training.
I've heard of people doing that. That's hysterical. That goes back to that curmudgeon coaching I was talking about.
Exactly. Fit the bill perfectly there.
So that's savage. That is savage.
Jenna's a beast on the bike. We're all our weak spot is the swim. So, what do you love about triathlon? When was your first triathlon? I mean, you mentioned being into an Ironman while you had time. But what got you into triathlon?
Oh man, I remember. So when I was injured in I think in college I raced 5K, 10K, 8K, cross country track type stuff. And whenever I get injured, I would be in the pool with the triathlon team, the triathlon club at my college, Georgia State University. And so that was my first introduction to them. And I just discovered I really loved training with these people. I'll never forget a swim drill they did where they stuffed all the triathletes in one lane, and they just made them race, and they were just killing each other. It was hilarious. So So I'm like, that really was like triathlon, like the start of a triathlon. But anyways, there was one girl, April, her name was April, and she was a pro triathlete in Georgia. And her and I became friends and training buddies. And she invited me to one of her half Ironmans, and she was a local pro. And I went to this try, and I looked at the swim, like the buoys of the swim, and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I was like, they're going to swim all of that? Are you kidding me? Like, no way. Because the bike and the run, I'm like, sure, okay. And at that time, I wasn't a road cyclist. When I lived in Georgia, I was a mountain biker. And but anyways, that was my first introduction to it. But then, like, when I moved to New York City, started coaching triathletes because that was my first coaching job. And at first, I was like, all right, I can handle coaching triathletes. I know I'm not a triathlete, but I can read the books. So I read every book I could find on triathlon coaching, and took the certs and all that stuff. And then I was like, well, it's time for me to do a triathlon. My first triathlon was at one of Philadelphia. They have a triathlon weekend where they do a sprint on Saturday and an Olympic on Sunday. So I did the sprint on Saturday. Freaked out in my first swim, like had to flip over, do backstroke. I thought I was going to drown, just like at most people, right? And then I got a flat tire on the bike, and of course, one of the things I've improved over the years is I was a reckless athlete for sure. I just get out there and just muscle it. So I got a flat tire. Didn't have a changing kit on me, and of course, one of the coaches I was out there with, she tossed me her tire kit. So I eventually got to the finish line. And that was my first triathlon, and I was hooked. And then I started doing other local triathlons. I did the Harryman Triathlon at Harryman State Park. That was a cool one because it's trail run. And then I got into like a bunch of the Rev 3 races, including the Rev 3, which was Rev 3. Now it's owned by Ironman. They had a race in Quasi, Connecticut. I used to do that race every year. It's brutal, but beautiful lake swim. And start doing that race. When I left I tried to do Tough Man one year. That was one race, hopefully the only race I'll ever crash out of. Got in a nasty crash in that race on the bike, which totally sucked. And then when I left my corporate job, I decided to bang out my full Ironman and did that in Sandusky, Ohio. And, I've done a bunch of halves, including up at Lake Placid. That was incredibly freezing. Last year I did, I did Maine last year. I've done Muscle Man once. I'm going to go back to Muscle Man this year. So that's the triathlon story.
That's awesome. Definitely sounds like you get some training in with the classes. Do you do much training outside of those? Do you have your own coach? Do you program your own training? What does that look like for a triathlon outside of the Peloton classes?
Yeah, no. So I have my own coach now. So I have my coaching business called Team Wilpers, and so we have a bunch of great coaches, and it's a lot of fun. And so I hired one of our coaches to help me out, named Justin. And I just believe that everyone can benefit. I think coaching is just one of those things that's never going to go away. I think everyone can benefit from having a coach, no matter what level athlete you're at. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, everyone can benefit. And it's been so great working with a coach. So he helps me better structure my time, because I think one of the greatest things about coaching is that, for me at least, I would always overdo it. And I think as a coach, what I would try to do, and what I was taught as a coach, would be, okay, let's get you to your goal with the least amount of exposure to injury and burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, you have to be very specific with volume of training and what we're doing in your training. And so my coach has been super helpful at helping me just pick out 1 to 2, depending on my coaching schedule every week. We pick out 1 to 2 days that are just like my workouts, high quality, focused workouts. And I have to be super focused to nail those every week. And then the rest of the Peloton stuff kind of adds to it. But those are the workouts that are really the game changers for me every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we won't keep you too long on here. We've got a couple of questions from the audience here.
Okay.
And then we'll let you go for the day here. We've got one from In Summer 16. What's your next adventure?
Next adventure. I just got back from a ski touring trip. That was a lot of fun. But next adventure, let's see here. I'm heading to Australia this weekend. That's going to be fun. We're going to go do I got into surfing with my wife, and so we're going to be down there surfing. That'll be fun. And then, I got 2 marathons coming up this year, and hoping to bring my marathon time back under 3 hours. So that's it for right now. But in terms of like anything crazy, I would say Australia is on that list.
Awesome. I'm headed there later this year for the first time for the Duathlon World Championships. Skipping.
Oh, good luck.
Thanks.
That's awesome. That'll be so much fun.
I was from Lindy Lou, by the way.
Oh, Lindy Lou. Oh, she's amazing.
Josh, did you have some other questions from the audience there that you wanted to ask Matt?
I definitely have some audience questions. And one other thing, I mean, if you follow Matt on Strava, you can see he's been a little bit more active. So I kind of knew he was getting coached, because you can tell he's now starting to enter like his actual classes. So I'm like, oh, he's being coached. Someone's tracking what he's doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. You've got me. He wants to see what's hitting my body at all times, and I just upgraded my watch to this Garmin Phoenix, and man, it's awesome. I love these things. Mm-hmm. From the sleep tracking to everything else. So, anyways, I'm trying to get everything out of this thing I can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And actually, we had a good question from Loose Matt. They were wondering, since you are doing a lot of this other training, and you've got the option to do the Peloton platform and use that as much as possible, but you're a big community guy and you love riding and training and getting outdoors. And I think Fede's got a question for you around that too. But have you ever, or do you ever have the urge to get on Zwift and ride with some of the pros and do some of those virtual rides? Or is that something coming to Peloton? That all the entertainment?
I can't comment on Zwift coming to Peloton, but I can say that I have been on Zwift before, definitely, for sure. I used to ride Zwift and Trainer Road like all the time. I think they're great platforms, and it's fun to get on there. And I liked the idea of riding in your power to weight ratio class. I thought that was super cool. Getting on there is great, but at the same time, like in Manhattan, I have 2 bikes, and that's about the limit that I can have. So I have an outdoor bike, I have my road bike, and I have my tri bike, and putting it on and off a trainer in a Manhattan apartment is challenging. So and what I found is that the wife loves the Peloton bike. So I'm more inclined to get on the Peloton bike when I'm indoors than I am a trainer anymore. And then I leave my bikes for outdoor riding. So that's kind of where I'm at. But do I think those platforms are great? Like, absolutely. I think it's super cool. At the end of the day, like, whatever gets you training.
Right.
I've actually even just now started to take my bike fitting that I had done professionally, and using the measuring tape to the millimeter.
Oh, there you go.
Set up my Peloton bike in my tri position.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll try not to.
So it's the Peloton bike is a lot less noisy, a lot less cleanup. It's not ugly, and it's going to stay there. You don't have to like roll it away or put it away. It's just there, and so it's super convenient, and you can get it most of the way there to your outdoor bike fit for the most part, and it's just like that's just become what I do, and then it also forces me to get my butt outside and go ride, which my coach is always pushing me to do. So, but that's challenging in Manhattan because you either have Central Park for anything. If you're going to ride 30 miles ish or less, okay, Central Park makes sense. But anything over that, you're going to have to go over the bridge, and it's a whole big to do. And then you have to battle the traffic to get there, all that stuff. And so, if I'm going to do anything longer than 30 miles, I'm heading over the bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Fede, did you have a question here for Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what was it like training with Lance Armstrong? I know you did a couple rides with him. Is there any stories you want to share with us on good old Lens?
Oh, I got to ride with Lance for like a minute at the ride in Greenville, and those guys, with Lance and George and Christian, they're just so much fun. It's so cool to see them. I don't know, like gel and talk and just they're just on another planet, but they're fun to be around. But yeah, I only got to ride with Lance for like a hot minute, and the one thing you'll immediately notice is how they move, is how their bodies move. And like, they're just so efficient. It's unbelievable to watch. It literally is. Like when I ride behind Christian, I'm just like, good. Like the guy is super aerodynamic, super efficient. And it's just like when we're riding together, it's like I'll probably be burning twice the calories that he will just because of how inefficient I am compared to him. But after you've been riding for that long, you just get super efficient with your movement. And I'll never forget the first day I got to go ride with Christian. I was freaking out of my mind. He invited me to go ride with him while he was commentating for the Tour de France. And I get to go ride with him, and my tire busted, and I'm sitting here like struggling to change this tire, like what anyone else. He literally takes my tire and has it changed in like maybe 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So
definitely
yeah.
experience there.
But those guys they like to party, but they also like to ride. They also keep each other accountable and fit, and they're a good time.
It seemed like you learned a lot coming out of the last Fondo you did with them too, in terms of nutrition. And I know you brought that a lot to some of the classes and try and translate nutrition as you get into some of the
absolutely
90, 120 rides.
Absolutely. Yeah. The last time I went down there, so one of the things that they're involved in is called Super Sapiens, which is continuous glucose monitoring. And I think that there's so much potential in continuous glucose monitoring to see, where those insulin, what's your blood sugar look like, all that stuff. I think that's going to continue to evolve into something great. But it's also like, as they've focused on that, they've also, if you look at the pro Pelotons, like people have been fit for a long time, are still fit, but where you really see that the change is happening now, aside from just going, people getting crazier on downhills, is nutrition. Nutrition is really like, there's a big forefront that continues to improve there. Is on the nutrition front. There's a lot to learn there, and where things are evolving is getting more calories in so that you basically have more in the furnace to burn. And the resistance to that in the past has been gastrointestinal distress. Like, it's been really hard. You didn't want to overload your body, and the concentrations and all these other things were causing people to get gastrointestinal distress. And so you'd run on like you'd run on a low. You keep the tank low, basically, to avoid crushing your stomach and having a gastro issue, which would ruin your race. But now they're learning to really jack up the calories, because you're going to feel way better in the race and you're going to perform way better. And so this past time, I was like talking to Christian and the guys about what my fueling usually looks like. I'm terrified to have stomach issues, so I have a sensitive stomach. And he's like, dude, you need more calories for sure. And he goes, let's try this. Let's try to like at least double what you're taking in during this event. And of course, I only brought what I brought, so I relied on what was on the course to double it. And what was on the course ended up not liking my stomach. But my nutrition, I ended up taking in all of my nutrition sooner than I would have done in the past, and that paid dividends throughout the event. And I felt way better. So I think we're constantly learning, but I think there's a lot we can continue to learn on the nutrition front, to how to perform better. So that was the big takeaway for me, is like, I need to be putting in more calories. It used to be we start thinking about calories at the 45-minute to an hour mark, and now it's 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Straight off the bat. Well, we have definitely taken up a fair bit of your time here, and we sure appreciate you coming on.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Lost my earbud again.
why don't you tell us, where can people follow you? How can they track some of your journeys and classes?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, of course, Peloton, I'm always there. My Instagram is probably where I'm most active in trying to put everything up. Instagram and Facebook. What else is there? And of course, Strava. You can stock whatever I'm doing from a training perspective. But yeah, those would be the best places to check me out for sure. And
Awesome.
so
I'll be sure to pop those in the show notes there if people want to give you a follow and take a look at what you're up to these days.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's fun talking to fellow coaches.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun to learn more about you and your journey, and we definitely look forward to following along with what you have coming up next.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. Appreciate it.